I've said it before, and I'll say it again. 2020 has been a rough year for everyone. With numerous losses people have accumulated this year, it often feels like there is no outlet to safely go in order to express themselves. Mental health issues are on the rise, and people have been turning to risky measures to cope with their situations, myself included. Prior to turning 21, I was never much of a person to drink. Every once in a blue moon, sure, but that just wasn't something that I did. By the time I turned 21, I definitely enjoyed going to bars and clubs with my friends and indulge in a couple drinks, but again, nothing ever got too crazy. That was until the end of my junior year of college. By the time April rolled around, I was under a lot of stress and anxiety, and I found myself at a crossroads of sorts. A number of chapters in my life were closing, and I was having a hard time adapting. I remember I went to a party around this time, and I got pretty drunk. No peer pressure involved by any means. Alcohol was simply available, and me wanting to enjoy myself that night, I overindulged. And that's what opened the floodgates. After that night, I found myself seeking out and buying liquor to take back to my apartment just to have. I wrote several of my final assignments and projects while fairly intoxicated. And as the end of the year parties were rolling around, it was a further excuse to keep drinking. From April to June, there was hardly a day I was not intoxicated to some degree. By June, though, I was at my internship, I wised up, and I cut back. Not to say that I didn't go out with my friends to have a drink every once in a while, but I stopped drinking alone. And those moments alone were the dangerous ones. I found that I was still fairly in control of myself, but I was noticing tendencies that could become dangerous had I let them keep going. Fast forward to this year. It was around May that I picked up the bottle again. With dealing with my recent breakup, the stresses of taking care of my grandparents, all the work that I was doing on the house, finishing up college, and dealing with the pandemic in general, I found no problem drinking alone by myself late at night. And on the days I knew I didn't have to go anywhere and drive, I'd start drinking fairly early. The thing is, I have a very high tolerance. It takes a lot to get me drunk. And I've never gotten blackout before. Sick, sure, but I've never gotten blackout. Regardless of how drunk I have ever gotten, I am always aware of my actions and I don't lose my head. I'll lose my motor skills, but my mind is still with me. And all those things are dangerous because on the nights all you want to do is forget, you keep drinking, drowning yourself to hit a point you can never reach. And for a long time, I didn't want to admit that this was becoming a problem. I'd say I was consistently drinking from the end of May to about mid-August. That is when we were about to move my grandparents into an assisted living home, and I had decided to live with them until the move was complete. I knew there was a lot of work to be done, and it would be easier if I was just there. But, as I mentioned in the first episode, I knew that living with them, I could break my habit. And living in Cornwall was definitely an experience. It was a lot of labor emptying out the storage in the basement, organizing and boxing up everything and whatnot. Besides the physical labor, I had what I could only assume were symptoms of withdrawal. I experienced a lot of anxiety, fast heart rate, occasional disorientation, shakiness, and loss of appetite. Now mind you, this was also a very stressful time, but I can only imagine it was amplified by weaning off drinking. I remember every other moment wishing I could have a drink. While I was there, I drank a lot of water. Every time I had the urge to drink something, I just had a lot of water. This also made me realize how little water I was drinking in general and how I need to keep myself hydrated, especially as I was doing all that hard work back then. After that time period, I was able to manage my drinking, but it's a scary thing to know how far down I can get and how far I can continue going if I do not keep myself in check. When I was getting this podcast started, I knew that I wanted to address mental health and substance abuse in some way, but I didn't know where to go or who to talk to. Well, just this past weekend, a friend on Facebook, Marie Schultes, messaged me about her program, Awareness Inc., and how they were just recently featured in an article, and that they were nominated in the 6th annual Mid-Hudson Heroes Contest. Immediately, I reached back out to see if she and anyone she's affiliated with wanted to jump on an episode real quick to help promote the voting between now and December 13th. She enthusiastically agreed. And that's where we are today. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Walsh Wednesday, the Reflective Series. As always, I'm Connor Walsh, and today we'll be speaking with representatives from Awareness, Inc. and what they do to help their community. Besides Walsh Wednesday, I have another series that I produce, presented by the College of St. Rose of Albany, New York, in affiliation with Student Development, Student Association, and the St. Rose marketing team. St. Rose Rocks is a web series that highlights music for the Golden Knights by the Golden Knights. Back for a limited run, St. Rose Rocks showcases the talent from the St. Rose community, whether it be from current students or alumni. Very similar to Walsh Wednesday, I sit down with the artists as we listen to two of their songs, talk about the backstories behind said songs, and dive into the inspirations and aspirations. For more on that, you can follow St. Rose Rocks on the College of St. Rose Student Association Facebook page or the St. Rose Rocks YouTube channel. I'm pleased to announce that my latest album, Away From Home, is now out and available to stream and download on all main platforms. That means you can find it on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Bandcamp, and more. Releasing this album feels like an ode to an old part of my life and the beginning of a new chapter. The best way to support is to buy the album off Bandcamp. Bandcamp works with artists so that they receive more bang for their buck in regards to downloads and purchases. However, wherever you decide to listen to the album is appreciated. Also, if you feel like supporting the music, this podcast, and my other creative endeavors, please consider subscribing to my Patreon page. All links will be included in the description of this podcast. So consider welcoming Away From Home into your home this holiday season. As I mentioned before, I received a Facebook message from Marie Schultes. Marie is a founder of Awareness, Inc., a peer-to-peer education program that addresses substance abuse and decision-making on so many levels. It's very hard to put awareness into a box because there are so many levels and facets that make this program special. In spring of 2007, on prom night, at the end of an underage drinking party, there was a tragic drunk driving crash that killed a young man and devastated his family and the whole community. At the time, Marie Schultes was running a mentoring program, and several of the high school mentors approached her, asking to create some kind of program to reach youth so this doesn't have to happen again. The mentoring program continued, and with the new alcohol education program created, it became the nonprofit Awareness, Inc. By 2008, local judges and schools started using this education program as a non-punitive consequence and referral resource. Ulster County courts began to mandate New Paltz College students and local high school students who were ticketed for underage drinking and substance use to participate in the program. They attended the first meeting at the Ulster County Sheriff's Department, and the following meetings were held at the college and New Paltz Youth Center depending on their age. In 2011, an evidence-based early intervention harm reduction curriculum was incorporated that was eventually revised to include multiple socio-emotional skill-building topics and a peer-led format to further engage the youth. In 2015, after OASAS, the New York State Alcohol Substance Abuse Services Agency gained oversight, they approved the Awareness Substance Education Program curriculum to also be used as a formal alcohol awareness program. Many of the attendees stayed on or came back months or even years later to help.
But it's really interesting with Zoom now. Dan, so Dan came to me when he was 17 years old, 10 years ago. He's 27 now. And he just came on with Josh and was helping with other kids. So he's been coming on weekly. And basically, I found a video of him speaking back then at one of our presentations. And what he's saying that helped him then is the same thing that we're hearing now. And we had statistics done in 2014-15, and it showed 90% of the kids identified a need to change their behavior in some way, shape, or form. So I ended up then getting into the New Paltz High School. The health teacher there is amazing, Miss Magnetico. So we'd go in 2 days, twice a year, and speak to all the health classes. So then we ended up having the after school program for like the last probably 5 years. But usually it was kids who got in trouble in school that found us. They came through the 8 weeks and then they'd stay and help, and it was mostly the 8-week program. It wasn't until like the last 2 years that all of these guys came around. And now none of them are kids that have been in trouble in the high school program. They're all actually quite academic and the opposite, but they all really wanted to help. So we were training them for the 8-week program, but we didn't have anyone involved at the time. Then I came up with the idea of trying to get in the middle school. We actually went and did a presentation to the entire middle school and then went in and did the lunches. So part of the kids in our after school program decided they wanted to work on that. Some continued to train. And then Debbie and Safina and Olivia, who aren't on today, they decided they wanted to do like outreach. And so they were coming up with, we were going to do a connection activity where the kids would make name bracelets and put them in groups like middle schoolers, high schoolers, so that everybody could get to know each other. So they're actually still working on that now virtually. And so they all like found their niche and they can do what it is that excites them. So if they come up with a new idea, I'm totally happy to try to figure out how we can make that happen. Debbie was very into going to the PTSO meetings, and Matthias, we went to middle school and to high school, we're very connected with them. And then the 8-week program continues on different times on Zoom. And the court actually likes it because now no one can say they can't make it to the weekly program because it's only at one time. And it makes it a lot more versatile to, and convenient because it's, the travel time isn't there. So that helps out a lot for everyone. And it usually ends up with people that relate to each other, helping each other. Like somehow it's like the leader ends up being someone that the person really can relate to. Or, some weeks when we were meeting at the church, everyone would call and say, oh, we can't be here. And then somebody else would end up stepping up and saying something that someone needed to hear. So it's very spiritual in that way, I feel like. So it's pretty cool. I basically just bring them together. Like when we had the meetings at the church, I would be there and at the high school, but I'm kind of milling around, taking attendance. I'm not in their groups because sometimes we have like 4 groups doing different weeks because it's an 8-week program. So depending on who's in what week. And so now that it's on Zoom, it's kind of changed in that we're still trying to figure out, because everyone would have their own book during the meetings physically. And now I have to write down what they're saying and put it on the screen. So it's like I can't have as many kids at once, which we haven't had to worry about yet. It's been interesting because we've been having more leaders like Ashan and Josh with Trevor. So where there used to be like more participants in one leader, it's the other way around, but their input makes it still the same group feel. So it's very cool and it still makes them comfortable. And now I'm more involved because I have to be on the Zoom. So I'm always telling them, you know what, just tell me to, I can't help jumping in, but you guys feel free to tell me to back off. It's harm and risk reduction. So we don't tell anyone what to do, but we don't condone anything either, but we don't judge while we're talking about it. So I just feel like no one likes to be told what to do. So that's the whole basis of the program. And by not telling them what to do and letting them see what they're doing, it helps them to want to change themselves.
One thing that made this interview special was that I had the chance to speak with students within the awareness program and get their perspectives. Matthias, Kay, Devi, and Ari are all high school students who participate in the awareness program to some function.
Hi, my name is Matthias. I'm currently a senior at New Paltz High School. I've been a volunteer with awareness for about 2 years now. I'm the acting general executive manager. I basically make sure things run. So last month we had a parent night where we hosted some people from the PTSA and stuff and educated them a little bit about what we're doing and what's going on and with the whole remote thing. And we've just basically been transitioning to online format since the COVID pandemic and making sure things run smoothly.
Awesome. Kay Rose?
Hello. I basically help with sorting things out, working to get stuff done. Personally, for me, I am in Pennsylvania, so I'm very far away. I found the program online, so what I do right now is I try to evolve the program to close to where in my local area as well. So that's my job, basically.
Also, if we could have Kay's mom is on because she found us first, and that's how we met Kay. So I wanted it from a parent's perspective.
Go for it.
Hi, this is Kay's mom. The pandemic hit us all really hard this year, and I found this group over the summer when I was looking for opportunities for my kids to get involved in some online social clubs because of the isolation, not being able to see their friends, not being able to go to dance class. My son had to drop out of soccer. Vacation plans canceled, camps canceled. So I was really trying to get them engaged. After a few months, the isolation and the pandemic got really challenging. And they weren't connecting very well with their friends from their brick and mortar schools, and they were transitioning to virtual schools. So I found awareness online. I talked to Marie. We joined a few classes, and it's been fantastic. It's once a week. This is a truly, truly wonderful group of kids that get together and support one another and support younger children and help them, connect, which is so critical to their mental and physical well-being. Regardless of the time, high schoolers and kids need each other, but in this isolated world, I think they need things like this even more than before to keep them in a positive state of mind as much as possible, help them succeed in school, give them resources to get through until we get back to that, whatever that new normal is going to be, and they can actually have a life outside of the house again and outside of a Zoom screen.
Amen. I really like hearing that. It's very nice. Debbie, how about you next?
I'm Debbie Patel. I'm actually a senior at New Paltz High School. I got involved sophomore year. I was actually freshman year. Marie came in with a group of her people that she did within the church. So she came in with them, and they shared their stories around, drug addiction and alcohol addiction and all of that. And it was really interesting to hear how a group like this was so fundamental for them, and a book like the book that we use, how much it changed their perspective, and how they told their stories about how much it really evolved their life and how much it really helped them look, and how before the program and after the program, how much it changed for them, their lives in completely different perspectives. I was I wanted to join the program, so I joined sophomore year, and ever since I've helped out building our middle school program. I helped out with that. And I'm more of when we were actually in school, I was more of the fundraiser, the person that people talk to, the one that everyone was Debbie, what are we doing? Due to the pandemic, I had a lot of things going on, so I had to step back for a bit. But, we did so many fundraising activities and stuff. So this group has definitely been a bliss in disguise because we were able to talk to people. We were able to do stuff from fundraising all the way to helping someone change their life, all the way to helping recruit new members. So it's always been an ever-changing program. And I think this program really encompasses true support and everything. It's such a beautiful space to be involved in.
Hello, I am Ari. I basically found the program around 3 years ago, I think. I'm a senior in high school now, so pretty early on. I didn't have health, so Marie didn't come into my class, so I didn't know anything about the program. So basically one day I was just walking down the hall at school, and 3:34, everybody's gone. And I was just walking around, and I just saw an open classroom, and I was like, all right, and I saw some pizza, and I was like, okay, so I went in, and basically there were a bunch of kids in there, and there was Marie. I ended up staying for an hour and just sitting down, and Marie was telling me her whole story about what the program was and the whole backstory. And I thought it was pretty interesting. Basically, each week, I just started coming back, and I ended up joining. After I joined, we started going into different schools. I was part of the middle school program that we started there. So basically, each week, we would take this bus, and a bunch of us would get in the bus, and we'd get a bunch of candy and all this stuff, and we'd drive over to the middle school. We'd basically try to recruit kids at lunch. We'd try to tell them, we'd go to each lunch table, and we'd be like, hey, this is our program, and we try to give them a 30-second blurb of what it was and try to get them to come in. We started building these groups of kids that we'd see every week, and basically we'd sit down with them and talk about high school and peer pressure and all these things, to try to get them ready for what high school is going to be, or try to get them to have a larger perspective of the problems that they're going through in middle school. And that was pretty cool. And we did that with, I think, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And we did that, I think, last year. And we also went into some high schools and we did some talks, like we went on their stage, and for like 6 hours, we just have little rotations of like the different classes, just nonstop. And that was pretty cool. So we eventually talked to the whole school, and we did that in Ellenville and Highland. Yeah, Highland, Ellenville. We did there. We talked to the kids there, and so it was pretty cool. Basically now I'm part of the online thing. It was a pretty smooth transition out of meeting every week in person and then the pandemic. And then, the next week we found out how to work the Zoom, and then still meeting every week and talking and trying to plan online events and stuff like that. So
next up, we had the opportunity to speak with Josh and Trevor. While the other members you just heard from are high school student volunteers, both Josh and Trevor are currently training to be peer leaders for the Substance Awareness Program. I'll let them explain how they came upon the program and how it has impacted their lives.
Hey, so I actually, right now I'm doing peer leading for the Substance Awareness Program, or I guess I'm training to be a peer leader. It's kind of like a process that you start out training and you learn the ropes, then you get into it. I actually went through the program myself in 2018. And I think out of everyone who's talked so far, I'd be the oldest. So that's where it comes into play, how like the different segments of these programs kind of help out different age groups. So I went in 2018. I was 22 years old. I got in some trouble. I had some problems with alcohol use and substance use and decision making, which throughout the program you kind of learn all ties in together. But I went through the program. It was 8 weeks. On and off since then, I've been volunteering. I've been volunteering weekly. And yeah, we kind of just meet together. And when someone comes to the program, we tend to realize that they don't know what to expect. And they quickly learn that it's not this like rigid program. You kind of come, we go through a template of like things we talk about. And if you want to open up more and talk about your personal situation more, you're more than welcome to do so. Honesty is like kind of just what we're looking for. Like, we're not going to judge if you're still using or if you're still doing things that maybe you don't want to be doing or shouldn't be doing, but it's a really open environment. That's why me and like pretty much everyone else that goes through the peer leading thing come back, because you tend to see that people go through the program and then they're there volunteering for months, years afterwards.
That's very cool. And I really like the perspective that you bring to it, and, that you were able to get something out of the program yourself, and now you're trying to give back to it in that way. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a cycle, which we tend to see a lot. So it's really cool.
A very positive one nonetheless. That's really cool. And Trevor, you're up next.
Hey guys, my name is Trevor, and I actually, unlike everyone else here, I actually went through the program really recently. So I'm kind of following Josh through the cycle, really. I had recently got in trouble with the law for drinking. That was like a roller coaster of emotions, and I found myself actually being suggested to attend the awareness program. And at first, I didn't really think anything of it, because people my age tend to like really brush it off as if it's really not going to be as beneficial as it is. Through talking to the people in there, such as Josh, because Josh was actually one of my Josh and Ashad, he was actually supposed to be in here. They were my peer leaders, and they were some of like the realest people that I could talk to in the sense of like opening up, where I like typically don't do that as often as I should. I was able to connect with them and like self-reflect. I feel like that's the biggest thing that this program teaches you, is like true self-reflection. And through that, I was able to change my whole mindset and change my actions on a weekly basis, because it is 8 weeks long. Beyond that, though, I am training to become a peer leader. So quite literally following down the tracks of Ashan and Josh. But yeah, that's where I'm at now. And, the cycle is real. Now I kind of want to come back, and this is me kind of coming back and volunteering. So what Josh said is true. It is a cycle.
That's very awesome. And I'm glad that you're getting all that out of it. I wanted to ask Trevor and Josh, since you guys have a similar path with awareness right now, what has it meant to you? Obviously, it probably has been in struggles with it and things along that line, but what are some of the key things that you've both gotten out of the program? Do either one of you want to start off?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take it away real quick, because
cool.
First, before I forget this, Marie also does a ton aside from even the program and stuff. So she is like the backbone of the program, but she cares about the individual so much. So I just want to throw that out there. And she helps if you go to this program with legal trouble, which tends to be the reason why people show up. Either they got a ticket or whatever it may be. She has a really big influence on like helping people out, because when you get in trouble with something like this, when it comes to alcohol and substance, it's like it happens to you before you even realize it's happening. And then you have a ticket or a charge that can literally affect the rest of your life. In my personal situation, she helped me get out of a couple of charges I had because she saw me through the program. So that influence, number one, was like the most literal, like real world. That actually helped me a ton. Actually, like on more, I guess you could say like a spiritual level, when you go to these programs, you realize that like you're not alone. Like you're acting in a way and you're doing things and you think to yourself, wow, like how many people really could relate to like what I did or this and that. And then it's such a laid back environment when you sit in on one of these meetings and you realize, okay, like you're not like evil for doing something you did or something that's wrong with you. You realize you're not alone. So that for me was like real, and Trevor like hinted on it. When you like have that open communication, you feel a lot more comfortable and a lot more like less anxious about the things. And it kind of just opens you up to be like, oh, okay, like there is a solution I can get from this because other people have went through it. So I think for me, that was the biggest thing I took from it.
To build on to what Josh was saying, Marie gets you like really comfortable. She keeps it, I can genuinely say she's truly authentic in her approach. You know, she's seen it so many times. She's run like this course so many times. She's seen and helped so many people. So Josh was completely correct in what he said about Marie. As far as takeaways from the program, I was preaching it all 8 weeks. Josh and Marie have heard me say it week and week again. I feel like the biggest thing I've took away from it was accountability and true self-reflection, because that's just how I operate when I'm able to look at myself from an outside perspective, which they really helped me do, you know, take myself out of my shoes and my legal troubles and look back in and see this is what we have to do to fix your problems. The way that they were able to do that without being invasive or like kind of like, you know, do this, or you're messing up, but more so like, oh, let's just look and see what the patterns are. Do you see a pattern? Because if you see a pattern, then we can change it together. You know, it was never like a harsh parenting, if that's what you want to call it. It was more so like a friend that you can truly open up to. So I'd say it's a safe space, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone who feels that they're in that position, because like Josh said, you truly aren't alone. In the times of like catching a charge or like getting in trouble, like you do feel like at your bottom, you know, you feel like you're truly alone. And that's how I certainly felt. But talking to Josh, talking to Sean, and talking to Marie, they certainly have helped me individually with certain conversations we had between us and then as a group, you know. So I'd say those are my biggest takeaways.
That's awesome. Thank you, Trevor, for sharing that. I'm really finding this super powerful right now, just as we're getting into this.
I just want to point one thing out. Trevor was our first only online person that came to the program. Everybody else started out we would meet in a church and we'd have pizza, the program that Josh went to. So everybody was like connected live before. So other people have finished now on this, but he was the very first to only do this. And I was so happy because I didn't know if we were really going to make the same connection with people through the Zoom. And at the end of the first meeting, when the other two leaders signed off, it was just him and I. And he said, you know, I've never opened up like that before. And I was just like, yes. So I'm really super happy.
That's awesome. That is really awesome.
I'm really proud of all of them.
As you can tell, this had been quite a powerful interview to conduct. I opened things up to the entire call and I asked everyone to explain what awareness has meant to them. And if there was at least one thing someone unaware of Awareness Inc. should know, what would that be?
I think the biggest thing about awareness that I found is community. I actually ended up writing one of my college essays about awareness and my experience there and just how much I've been able to develop with this community. One of the biggest challenges we faced over the summer was we got funding from the school, but then it got cut over the summer. And we have been trying to rally the school board to give us some funding back. We haven't really been successful, which has been unfortunate. But I'm very proud of Ari and Sfina, she's not here, and Scarlett, who's also not here, who have been really, really, really big help. And I've just been able to make friends with people I never would have outside of awareness. Another thing for me is it kind of opened up my eyes to the opportunities for service. Like, because of Marie, she got me connected with Jen Berry, who's the pastor of a church in New Paltz, and now I'm a part of my school's Racial Equity Advisory Committee. She also got me connected with Nina Dawson, and so now I'm a student representative for the Ulster County Youth Board. So I've just been opened up to a lot of experiences and a lot of places where I can serve the community and the county, and because of awareness. And that's probably what I gotten the most out of it.
That's really awesome. Thank you, Matthias. Kay, let's go down to you.
Honestly, I've gotten a lot out of this. When I first found the program, I didn't really have that many friends. I had to cut them off for harmful behaviors that they were going through. I'm actually in Delaware County.
Delaware County, Pennsylvania has the highest opioid addiction rate in the entire United States of America. And
we have a real drug problem here.
Yes, and it is one of the things I know Kate is interested in bringing the program here. She's the first participant, I believe, Marie, from Pennsylvania. We have kids in middle school who are doing opioids, and we have, a real problem here. Our particular school district does better because it's a wealthier school district, but we also have some of the poorest areas just outside of Philadelphia. To give you a sense, we're about 10 minutes drive from entering Philadelphia County and 20 minutes from downtown. It's a really, really big problem here. And it's something I've spoken to my children about since probably around 5th grade, because there are kids getting their friends, and as Kate said, she had some friends that were starting to exhibit bad behaviors, smoking, getting into other kinds of trouble. Really had to have some frank conversations with her about finding a new friend group, which is very hard to do in high school, and especially in a pandemic. We tend to do the things that the people we hang around with do. If you're hanging around with 4 kids that are smoking and you're not, you keep hanging around with them, eventually you're going to be smoking too.
My behavior was getting really bad, actually. I didn't do any abusive behaviors like drinking or smoking, but I was lashing out a lot out of frustration because in my friend group as a whole, we kind of just vented. It was an entire venting community at that point. And I was kind of bringing that back because I'm kind of I really wanted to help them. I remember having a friend that was doing cigars and cigarettes and weed. She was doing all these things by middle school. I caught her vaping on the playground in 7th grade. And I was like, her family was going through a hard time. So I kind of wanted to ease her, okay, let's make a goal. 2 days without smoking or anything. And then 3, and then 4, and tell me how you're going. Because I didn't want to pressure her, but I wanted to make her understand that it was harmful to her. I kind of started from there, and awareness is very similar. With this drug problem, I've caught multiple drug deals in my brick and mortar high school going on. It's just such a big thing going on that awareness can have such a big impact on because of the problem we have here. So I'm really passionate about bringing awareness to be more impactful in my community and area.
Sure. So with the program, it's actually structured in a way that we have weekly goals. So let's say not drinking for a week, and then you'll have another goal. A very popular goal of mine was to read consistently for a week, and they would actually make an effort to check up on those goals. And not, if I didn't meet it, I would be honest, and say, oh man, I messed up with my reading, and Marie would be oh, she would write it down. But she was very, and everyone else in the group was very on top of my goals. And I feel that's what's really important, because it encourages you. At least for me personally, I wanted to, achieve the goals that I said I was going to do. I'm really found on my word. As far as long-term goals, I think what I'm going to take into the future is keeping that true sense of accountability, because now Marie and my other peers aren't going to be checking up on me week to week, So now it's me just maintaining the momentum I got from the group and taking that elsewhere and into other projects in my life. So I would say goal-wise, the goals in general just had a really big shift in my mindset, coming in from making mistakes and getting in trouble to now coming out, I feel, with a more level head, accountability, and using true self-reflection in other ways, even though I can still reach out to them, but I need to be able to use it by myself, and keep the momentum going.
No, of course. That concept of accountability and self-reliance and self-resilience is something I'm seeing all around here. The fact that you can have places to go to is great, but also finding that strength within yourself is something I'm seeing all around the board here, and that's really cool to see.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be just around the bad things in life. It doesn't. You don't have to just keep yourself accountable for, when I make a mistake, and you keep yourself accountable for, when you do something good, it doesn't necessarily just have to be all negative based.
For me, what awareness means to me, it wasn't like in school and even online, like seeing the progression makes me so happy. So I'm a Hindu by practice. A lot of the concepts were like, self-reflection, we call that underage. So I was able to take a lot of the things I religiously believe in, and I can see how it would be inputted to not only my lifestyle, but to someone else who I was not in the same boat with, like to someone who had substance abuse or someone who had different problems. I was able to see how my religious aspects were also falling into place. It was exciting to see different things. And when I started awareness in 2018, I want to say, we had the whole entire nicotine addiction going up really, really high in New Paltz. So with it, we weren't really going out. We weren't telling people, don't do it, don't do it. We were going into these health classes and we were kind of hinting about it. People heard the stories. I had a friend come up to me and he was like, I've been going through it. I'm now, because of awareness coming in, I'm able to realize that I have this problem and I should start to fix it. He's like, I don't know where to start. So even though he didn't join awareness, but it was cool to be him, for him to be able to come up to me and I would be able to help him and kind of create like a tracker or something like that in it. And we would do this in social studies class, but it was really cool to be able to kind of just like talk to some people and kind of really, if they didn't feel comfortable coming to that setting, for them to know that they had a support group that they could come to outside of a club.
Awareness.
It's the community and the connection thing. That's like one of the biggest things about awareness. It's like last year, and the 3 years that I've been in awareness, I've met so many people that I just would not have met if I was on awareness. Just people very maybe different from me, their whole demeanor, like very quiet people who I probably would not have approached or anything like that, who, have become good friends of mine. Like I remember, I think, a year or two ago, we were doing a trip to one of the high schools, and it was just me and this girl that I did not know. All right. And we were going to spend a whole day there. And I was like, I don't know who this girl is. I really have never talked to her ever. And I was like, all right. I mean, and it was just us on this little teensy bus with this pizza, and at the end of the day, after, talking to all the people and actually hearing, she had to tell the kids or the high schoolers her story, and I didn't even know it. So it was almost like I was hearing it for the first time as well. And it was a pretty powerful story. And after the whole day of that, we actually became pretty good friends. And to this day, like she's a very close friend of mine. Here you're going on these trips with all these people, and you don't really know them very well. But it's like, at the end of the day, like you're gonna know them. It's like I talk to Matthias and Kay. I talk to them every week. And I've never even met Kay. I've never met her. But only through this. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I think that's one of the big ones. But I think also, this was one of the first reasons that I joined actually, was because I feel like I have a lot of friends who they don't have serious drug problems. I'm not going to say that, but it's a high school thing. And a lot of them are, a lot of them smoke, a lot of them drink, in somewhat moderation. But 3 years ago, I thought it was a good idea if I was involved with something that if for whatever reason they ever got in a situation, or if they're, it ever got worse, if they had a serious addiction or anything, they would know that I was like attached to a club like this so that they could come to me and I could try to help them out. So I thought that this was almost like, not like a safety net, but, almost something that, they would just know that I was like their one friend, was like that kid that is attached to this group. And so, if the cops ever caught him or anything, that they wouldn't be just, that they'd have a program that they knew could actually help them. So that was the second reason, because a lot of clubs in high school, I thought that this was one that actually had like a serious impact, that there's like more serious, like real world stuff that this club actually like does and helps people, like seriously helps people. So I think that's why I was really drawn to it.
When he was just speaking about going to the school with the girl, that was very interesting. She was going to go all by herself, and she was a 9th grader that found us in 8th grade. Talk about having an impact. I didn't know it at the time, but she had just come out of a program and found our program in her lunch in 8th grade. And on the first day of 9th grade, there she was. And I was shocked because usually kids don't come that quick. When I said about going to Highland, she's like, oh, I want to go. And I said, oh, honey, you're the only one going. You don't want to go all by yourself. She goes, yes, I do. And then Ari's like, I'll go. And so the other thing when he was saying that we didn't know she had a story, that happens in awareness all the time. Because we don't pry or say, here, tell me what your life story is. Kids come for whatever reason. And when we went to the middle school, 2 kids I had never met asked if they, said they'd come and help, because I'm always looking for bodies, And this girl was one of them, and she told her story, and she had, a vaping history and all these other things, and mental health issues too with these kids. And so as soon as she started sharing that she was in this program, the other girl whispered to me, can I share? Because I have a similar story. And I was like, absolutely. And just like the day at the high school, when Allie started talking, I had no idea. I thought she was just going to be, I found this in middle school. And she had this really intense story. And it's interesting, the more times they speak, the more they start to tell. And the same with the older kids. Like we had a 26-year-old guy that was there in recovery. He had passed out in his car from heroin addiction. And, he was in the older program. So it's just really, and one girl that was an intern came with us, and I had no idea that she had graduated from that high school. So while we were talking, I thought she was just going to watch as an intern. And she's like, can I say something? I have a story. She was in that school and had gotten kicked out, and had like such a powerful story about how badly she wanted to go back to school and they couldn't let her, and she had to struggle, but it was just, it's amazing how everyone has a story. It's just really heartwarming to see how it helps them to help each other.
I was just going to piggyback off of what Ari said. Like the thing with the community, I think it was so different to experience, because usually in high school, you feel that you're judged so many times on constant little things. How you wear your hair, what are you wearing, like different things. And I think the moment that we walked into Ms. Magnetico's classroom, and you would see everyone, you would have your friends, you would usually have 1 or 2 friends there or something like that, and then you would be talking to people that you would have never talked to on a normal day basis, and all of a sudden you are in a zone where you feel comfortable to share different parts about your life or different experiences that you've had and not feel judged at all. And I think that is something that awareness really stands for. It's a really cool thing that, we were blessed in our high schools have, and we are so thankful for Marie to be able to provide the program.
Now, I think we got a lot to work with here, and I greatly appreciate everybody being open, honest, and vulnerable with expressing all different parts of your stories. And it really means a lot, and I bet it's going to mean a lot to listeners out there. So thank you all for coming on. I just want to give each and every one of you the opportunity now. If you have any last closing remarks that you guys want to say, feel free to say it, and then enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I'm going to be editing the entire night.
I'm just so proud of them all. They're like making me want to cry. Be an awareness without the kids. And even when I was like first starting out and there was just one kid I was helping, there was always someone, because I think if ever there was a time that there wasn't anyone, I would have stopped, but it just kept going. And like they said, we actually had about 20 kids total, even though they weren't always there, the most we've ever had at the after school program. And it's just it's really nice for me to hear this from them too, because we don't really sit down and talk about what awareness does that often. I mean, Ari has made some videos, and Matthias, they made a Black Lives Matter video, and they've made videos about finding the program. So I got to hear it there, but it was just really heartwarming to hear them all.
Voting for the 6th annual Mid-Hudson Heroes Contest is going on currently. You can go to the link in the description, scroll down to where it says Education, and you can cast your vote for awareness by clicking the checkbox. You can vote every 24 hours between now and December 13th. The winner of the competition receives $2,500. We would all greatly appreciate it if you would consider voting for awareness and helping this program grow and expand.
Vote for awareness. Go out and vote for awareness.
Yeah, go vote for awareness.
That concludes this episode of Walsh Wednesday, the Reflective Series. Again, I'd like to thank everyone with awareness who came on this episode today. Also, I want to thank Awareness for the service that they are giving to the community. If you or someone you know are battling with substance abuse, or you just wish to get involved, check out their website in the description on learning more about their programs and how to reach out. Please consider voting for this beautiful program. I'm excited to see what they will achieve in the near future. As always, I'm Connor Walsh, and I'm glad we get to spend some time.